Words that set the course for relationships. Words that set the course for relationships. The relationship, first of all, with God, and then the relationship with each other as gathered people. Words that shape relationship. First of all, it shapes our relationship with God, the God who created us and the world in which we live, the God who redeemed us out of the house of slavery, the God who rescued us from the land of desolation. We are who we are because God did something first. God acted first. God found us. God reached out to us, and God gave us new life. And that is why, in that text for the Ten Commandments, it began with the words, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, who brought you out of the house of slavery. I brought you out of that place where you could not live well. I brought you out of that place where your life was ruined. I brought you to the place where you could start a new way of living. I acted, says God. I am your God. I am your God, and you don't need any other God. I have already proven myself to you, God says. I've proven myself to be trustworthy. I've proven my commitment to you. I have proven that I am competent, that I am able to do what I say I will do. So I am your God, and live your life then in relation to me. Be as faithful to me as I have been to you. Be as devoted to me as I have been to you. Be as respectful of me as I have been of you. Now, these Ten Commandments are a little bit short on detail. They don't go into a great deal of explanation about exactly how one does all of these different things. But that's not their point. That's not their purpose. The Ten Commandments weren't intended to be the very detailed roadmap. They weren't intended to be a whole big book of laws that it takes to run a society or a community or whatever. These are the big pictures. The Ten Commandments are the big shape. They sort of draw a circle around life, and they say, live your life inside this circle. They say, this is the direction we are headed. Head this way. And then they call all of us who belong to God into the process of ordering our relationships responsibly, ordering our relationships, figuring out how to do what the commandments call us to do, especially in our relationships with each other. How does this work? I tried to figure out how I was going to get at this. I thought, okay, let's try one. Let's try an easy commandment. And we'll play with it a bit, and it'll become kind of a model then that you can apply to some of the other commandments as you try to sort your way through what it means to live in right relationship with God and with each other. Let's try one of the easy ones. Let's say, you shall not commit adultery. That's an easy one. I don't screw around, so I can put a check mark beside that, right? Simple. Simple enough. Really? Remember that the goal of this commandment is to give shape to a relationship. And so if I try to define this relationship, my marital relationship, in terms of what I don't do, this relationship here, I don't do this, and 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 I don't do this, each of those things would be dangerous and damaging to this relationship. So it's good that I don't do them, but I don't do this, and I don't do this, and I don't do that, and pretty soon somebody's going to ask what? What do you do? What do you do? Because if there's going to be a relationship, sooner or later somebody's got to do something. So we learn how to treat our spouses with love and with tenderness and with faithfulness. We learn how to live together with joy and delight and passion. We learn how to shape life together, to communicate with each other, to work together to accomplish what we decide is valuable to us together. We learn how to do all of these things together because that too is part of what it means to have this kind of relationship. And so we do what we need to do, and we do what we can do, and we do what we do gladly to make a relationship rich and happy and good. I have been doing those things with Pam. And since this is a relationship that I promised, and when you were married, you promised it too, this relationship will be one that goes on as long as we both shall live. I am hoping that it will be a very long time from now, since I rather enjoyed my marriage. I hope it will be a very long time from now before I can put a check mark beside that thing and say, okay, now I have done it. Because I'm wanting Pam and me to live long and healthy lives yet. I hope we're just nicely getting started. And you probably hope the same too. We don't want to come to the point where life is done and we can check this commandment off and say, okay, we have kept it. But then there's a little bit more to it than that. Pam and I have 3 daughters. Each of our daughters is married. Now, as parents, we care about our 3 daughters, and we care about their lives, and we care about their marriages, and we care about their families, and we know from having watched them and from our own personal experience that when marriage goes well, life goes better. They are better off when their marriages go well. And so, wouldn't it make sense that this commandment is also inviting us to do what we can to encourage our daughters, to encourage our sons-in-law, to do what we can to help them put their life together in good and healthy and grand ways? Because these relationships, the relationships that our daughters have with their husbands, are also a part of the circle that make our lives good. And so, for all of these marriages to flourish is good for us and good for them. So wouldn't it make sense that trying to keep this commandment would be to do what we can to help all of those marriages flourish? But surely this is the boundary, isn't it? Surely this is as far as the circle extends. Pam and me and our 3 daughters and our sons-in-law and our grandchildren, surely that's the circle, isn't it? You haven't had the chance, most of you, to attend a wedding where I officiate. But what I do is not unusual. Most people who officiate weddings will do something like what I do. Fairly early on in the service, I will ask a couple, do you really want to go through with this? Do it a little classier than that, but do you really want to go through with this? And if the couple says yes, and so far they all have said yes, then I will turn to the family, the people who are seated in these front pews, and I will say to the family, the parents and the grandparents and the siblings and maybe some aunts and uncles and cousins and such, the people up near the front here who are family, I will ask them, do you offer your prayerful blessing? Do you offer your loving support to this marriage? Will you do everything in your power to uphold this man and this woman in their marriage? I hope the family members will all say yes. And then I will turn to everybody in the congregation and I will ask everyone, do you pledge your support and your encouragement to uphold the covenant this man and this woman are making together? And I hope that all of the people who are in the assembly will say, yes, we do. Yes, we do. Why? Why involve all of these other people in this relationship that this couple is beginning now? Why ask all of these other people to get involved in this process of helping this covenant, this new couple keep this commandment? Well, you know the answer, I'm sure. Yes, marriage is private and personal, and yes, very much of what happens in the marriage belongs to the couple and needs to stay with the couple. But you also know that marriage thrives best in a particular context. A marriage thrives best in a context that supports it, in a context that encourages it, in a context where the parents support the relationship and the friends support the relationship, and where the community around this couple supports the relationship, and when the couples around them also live their own relationships well. All of this works together. All of this works together to help this couple who is now getting married, and all of the couples live the relationship together well. And so you see, with any luck at all, we will never get to the point where we can check this commandment off and say, yes, I have now kept this one. Because that work of nurturing and sustaining and enriching the marriages that are around us and the marriages that we are involved in, that work just goes on and on and on and on because the circle keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that model helps us understand what the 10 Commandments are about. The goal of these commandments is to give us life. The goal of these commandments is to help us figure out how to live well, how to live life fully, how to live life the way God created us to live it. And so if you play with each of these commandments, as I've just been doing with this one, you'll begin to see how that works out, what it means. And in fact, that's what the scholars have been doing for generations with these commandments. Era after era, they have worked with these commandments in kind of the same way. In the Lutheran Church, they use Luther's shorter catechism as a part of their confirmation material, and for good reason. Luther does some good stuff. And one of the things Luther does with these 10 commandments is exactly what we did this morning. He looks at the commandment and it says, thou shalt not, whatever, and he says it's sort of like a coin. You turn the coin over, and what's on the other side of the coin? You had thou shalt not on one side. On the other side of the coin is exactly the kind of thing we were talking about here. Instead of murder, what are you called to do? Instead of stealing, what are you called to do? Instead of these other things that are wrong, what are you called to do? And in the process of doing what we are called to do in response to what we ought not do, that's what God intends from us. And that's the point. That's the point of the 10 Commandments. And so from Mount Sinai, God speaks. God says from the mountain, I created you. I blessed you at creation with every gift, with a life that was good in every way. You read Genesis chapter 1, and over at each stage of the process, God says, it was good, it was good, it was good. When I created you, I blessed you at creation with a life that was good in every way. And then God said, I redeemed you. I broke you out of a bad relationship, a relationship in which you were abused, a relationship in which you were treated like trash, a relationship where you were slaves. I broke you out of that bad relationship, and I brought you to a new place, a new physical place, a new spiritual place, a new emotional place, a place where you can live, a place where you can live in community like I created you to live, a place where you can live in relationship like I created you to live. I brought you to that new place, and I gave you a gift that makes life possible, a gift that shapes life well, a gift that tells you who you are, a gift that makes you who you are. That gift is these 10 commandments. Embrace the gift and live the gift. Become the people God made you to be. Let us pray. Almighty God, you alone can bring into order the unruly wills and affections of sinners. Grant your people grace to love what you command and to desire what you promise, so that among the swift and varied changes of this world, our hearts may surely there be fixed where true joys are to be found. Through Jesus Christ our Lord.